Good morning, everybody. Today I'll want to make you feel as an up-to-date physician feels like when he's treating a patient with plaques. Can it be in the arteries of his neck or of his heart? So I want for you to look at this picture and to tell me which white spot, which represents calcification, first captured your attention. I imagine that most of you are going to say that number 6, 5, maybe even 4. And this is actually what the current medical practice is able to see nowadays with the help of a CT scan. But this stage is already too late. At this point, already the patient is at risk of a stroke or a heart attack. But have any of you seen these calcifications, which are far away from any risk of the patient to develop a stroke or a heart attack? And this is what I'm trying to see within my project with the help of medical imaging. In the year 2000, the dynamic duo of the PET-CT was coined by Times Magazine as the medical invention of the year. 12 years later, the PET-MRI was named the ultimate imaging hybrid. And as you can see, that the medical imaging field is constantly changing, constantly pushing the barriers of technology to be able to see inside the patient without having to cut open the skin. And the advantage of these hybrid images is that you can have anatomical structures like bones alongside physiological processes. Thus, the term hotspot was created to describe the place where the tracer accumulates and brights up in the PET image. Sadly, for the small calcifications that I showed you in the beginning, there is no ideal tracer. But there's a very good candidate, sodium fluoride. This tracer is a PET tracer that was first used for imaging bones in bone cancer. It's the smallest tracer out there. It actually has only 2 atoms within its molecule. But from this simple structure, the coolest feature emerges. The fluoride 18 is able to bind to hydroxyapatite crystals, the very building blocks of bone, and the calcifications from the plaques. And this tracer is actually so cool that the fluoride can only bind to the surface of the crystal. It cannot penetrate it. So the higher the surface area, the higher the the resolution of the PET image will be. And this actually works to my advantage because those small calcifications that I showed you in the beginning have a very high surface to volume ratio. Thus, we expect the PET image with sodium fluoride to show very good images and to see calcifications that neither the PET nor the MRI images are able to see. But why do I want to see calcification? Why not something else? Well, this question is fairly easy to answer because calcification is considered to be one of the hallmarks of plaque development. It's actually considered as an independent risk factor for all cardiovascular diseases. And a mathematical model shows that if you have a lipid-laden plaque and you add tiny inclusions into this plaque, then you actually can double the pressure from the surface of the plaque compared to the initial pressure, thus making this plaque more prone to a rupture and to develop an acute event. But now, why in the world would nature select such a feature? Why would our bodies actively throw microcalcifications into our plaques to make them vulnerable and to make us in the position to be in a potential deadly event? Well, the way our body tackles any threat is via inflammation. You get a wound, inflammation. You get infected, inflammation. In 1999, as the PET-CT was in the making, a researcher named Russell Ross published an article with a very simple title, Atherosclerosis, an inflammatory disease. And now we know that atherosclerosis is not just represents not only some lipid pouches in our arteries, but actually they are inflamed. And in his article, Ross explains that atherosclerosis is a chronic inflammation. This happens only if our body cannot tackle the initial threat. So it developed an alternative pathway. If you cannot win the battle, then starve your enemy to death. And this strategy works really well when you're infected with tuberculosis. If you ever catch the Mycobacterium tuberculosis, then the first step of your body is to turn in inflammation. But it's not going to resolve the issue. So it's going to start building a stone wall around the infected area to capture the bacteria inside and let it starve to death. For some reason, our body chooses this pathway also for atherosclerosis and plaque development. But when the calcifications are really small, it would be the ideal time to start treating. Sadly, the current medical practice has no treatment, but there are some experimental ones. And the one that I find very interesting is vitamin K. Wouldn't it be so cool if just by giving a patient a simple vitamin supplementation would immediately cure his disease? This actually happened in the age of exploration with scurvy. Scurvy was a very prominent disease on the ships, on the sailors from ships that were crossing the oceans. But giving vitamin C to those sailors immediately cured their disease. I don't expect actually that vitamin K to be the magic bullet against calcification, but I think it's a very good start. So this is what I'm going to do within my PhD. I'm going to do a complete translational project from preclinical to clinical. In the preclinical, I'll use a plaque development model mouse. Actually, mice are very resistant to plaque development, so researchers modified their genome to make them more prone to develop plaques, and I'll also feed them with a Western-type diet, which is the human equivalent of pizza, burgers, French fries all day long. Sadly, no Coke, because they're going to receive normal water. Afterwards, I'm going to switch their diets with a vitamin K supplemented one for 3 months. And then I'm going to scan them using a highly sophisticated imaging section available in Uniclinic Aachen. Then, making the translation to humans, I'm going to include some patients that are prone to have atherosclerosis, give them vitamin K supplementation for 3 months, the exact amount of time that also the mice are going to receive. And I'm going to scan the patients at the beginning and at the end of the treatment to see the influence of vitamin K on their plaques. And by the way, in this project, I'm going to use 44 patients. So if any of you think that might have some plaques in their arteries and are willing to take vitamin K tablets for each day for 3 months in a row, then please call me, and maybe a bottle of wine or scotch might be involved at the end of the project on me, off record. And now, okay, so everything is nice what I explained up until now, but you might ask me, why is all this relevant? Why should I even care? Well, the International Agency for Cancer Research estimated that in 2018, around 9.6 million people died worldwide of cancer. Tragic. But it goes even worse. If you go on the website of World Health Organization, you're going to find this sentence. An estimated 17.9 million people died of cardiovascular diseases in 2016 alone, representing 31% of all global deaths. Of these deaths, only 85% were due only to heart attack and stroke. This is why this research is important. Because at the end of the day, plaques take more lives than all cancers out there, than all diseases out there. And now is where I want to make my stand. I want to advocate for something. In the field of oncology, a lot of martial nomenclature is used. There's a war on cancer. We have to fight cancer. He's a fighter. He beats cancer. In cardiology, nothing. A patient comes at the ER with a heart attack, believing that he's going to die. He's immediately sent to the cath lab, and when he wakes up, he's received by the doctor with a papyrus of drugs and lifestyle changes recommendations. And do you know how these lifestyle changes recommendations sound like? No more salt, no more burgers, no more fries, no more pizza. Don't ever drink a soft drink ever again. No more sweets, don't smoke, don't drink, exercise more. Don't be a couch potato. Basically, whatever you did before that got you into this situation, don't ever do it again. Change your lifestyle 180 degrees. And no wonder actually that a patient after 1 year or 2 comes again at the ER with the same problem. He has no incentive to do so because he did not understand. He did not understand that this is a war. It's going to be a very hard war up until we're going to find novel imaging systems and treatment options. Thank you.